Welcome to this explainer. Okay, I am absolutely thrilled you're here today because we are jumping right into one of the most meticulously layered puzzles in modern fantasy. We're talking about Brandon Sanderson's original Mistborn trilogy. Now, if you love stories where every single tiny detail eventually clicks into place to reveal this massive, breathtaking picture, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to break down the complete narrative of the Final Empire, the Well of Ascension, and the Hero of Ages, treating it all as one beautifully connected story.
So think about your typical fantasy trope, right? Usually we jump into the story as a young farm boy discovers his grand destiny to defeat the Dark Lord before he takes over the world. But Mistborn asks a totally different question. What if the bad guy won? Like a long, long time ago. The tyrant of this story, known as the Lord Ruler, conquered the world, claimed divinity, and has been ruling with an immortal iron fist for an entire millennium. It is such a bleak, totally fascinating starting point.
All right, here's our roadmap for the explainer today. First up, welcome to Scadrial. Then, the three metallic arts. After that, we'll cover Rebellion and the Martyr, move into the cosmic game of gods, and finally, we'll reveal the true hero of ages. We're going to start with a grounded, gritty heist to overthrow a tyrant and logically escalate all the way to a cosmic battle of gods. Let's get into it.
Section 1. Welcome to Scadrial. We need to dive right into the world building here, because understanding this oppressive environment is absolutely crucial to everything else that happens.
Welcome to Scadrial. This planet is dying. I mean, it is literally choking on perpetual ash that falls from the sky all day, and at night, these creepy supernatural mists completely take over. Society here, known as the Final Empire, is violently divided. At the very top, you have the nobility, the privileged elite keeping everything in check for the Lord Ruler. Down at the bottom, the Ska. They're a fiercely oppressed peasant underclass, subjected to slavery, brutality, and death for even the smallest infractions. This rigid, horrific class system, centered in the massive capital of Luthadel, paints a really bleak picture. It shows exactly why rebellion wasn't just some noble idea. It was desperately needed for basic survival.
Moving to Section 2. The three metallic arts. Because to fight that kind of intense oppression, you need power. And that brings us to Scadrial's highly structured magic systems.
Honestly, the best way to think about these three metallic arts is like batteries. Allomancy is end positive. It draws power from an external source, specifically the cosmic power of preservation. You gain energy. Feruchemy, on the other hand, is neutral. You are basically using your own body's battery, storing an attribute like physical strength today so you can tap into it tomorrow. No net gain, no net loss. Hemalurgy, though, that one is violently end negative. It aligns with a force called ruin, and it requires you to literally murder someone with a metal spike just to brutally steal their magical battery.
Now, let's focus on the practical mechanics of Allomancy, since it's the main tool our heroes use. Users literally swallow flakes of metal and mentally burn them in their stomachs to channel specific powers. Most users are what's called mistings. They can only burn one specific metal, but incredibly rare individuals are Mistborn, and they can burn all 16 base metals. And the effects are crazy specific. Burning physical metals like pewter boosts your strength, while iron lets you pull on nearby metals. Mental metals let you soothe or riot other people's emotions. It's this deeply physical, almost scientific magic system.
But then we get to compounding. This is essentially a magic cheat code. And it brilliantly illustrates how the Lord Ruler stayed in power for a millennium. See, he wasn't actually a god, he was secretly a compounder. Because he had access to both Allomancy and Feruchemy, he completely hacked the system. He would store his own youth inside Feruchical gold, and then use Allomancy to burn that same gold. That let him draw out massive, exponential amounts of youth, effectively cheating aging and death for 1,000 years. Pretty wild, right? Section 3. Rebellion and the Martyr. Obviously, to take down a magically immortal god, you need a crew willing to do exactly that. The impossible.
Let's meet that crew. The rebellion is spearheaded by Kelsier. He's a charismatic, highly intense Mistborn who miraculously survived the Empire's deadliest prison. His drive for vengeance is absolute, and honestly, he's a little bit psychopathic about it. Kelsier recruits Vin, a traumatized street thief who slowly blossoms into an incredibly powerful Mistborn. She is really the true heart of our story. They're joined by an amazing cast. Sazed, a scholar carrying the knowledge of dead religions. Kelsier's tragically infiltrated brother Marsh, a street-slang misting named Spook, and a shape-shifting Khandra named Tensoon. Eventually, they even bring in Elend, a young noble who actually wants to legitimately reform this broken system.
Now, on paper, Kelsier's plan looks like a classic heist, right? Steal the Lord Ruler's wealth, incite house war among the nobles, and arm the Ska. But here's the thing. Kelsier knew that plan would fail. You simply can't punch a god to death. The absolute genius twist here was that Kelsier's ultimate goal wasn't actually to survive at all. It was to create a mythology. By standing up to the Lord Ruler in the public square, smiling, and letting himself be struck down, Kelsier became a martyr. He shattered a 1,000-year psychological grip of fear just by showing the oppressed Ska that they could look their god king right in the eye. And right before his brutal end, Kelsier delivers this iconic line. "You can't kill me, Lord Tyrant. I represent that thing you've never been able to kill no matter how hard you try. I am hope." The emotional weight of that sacrifice is staggering. It sparked a massive religious uprising among the Ska, and it gave Vin the exact opening she needed to finally strike down the Lord Ruler, destroying the final empire for good. But hey, this is a Sanderson story, which means there is always another secret. Section 4, the cosmic game of gods. Let's peel back the next layer, because the cosmic truth was hiding right in plain sight. So we really have to ask this crucial question. Vin won, right? The tyrant is dead. So why do the sky's ashfalls suddenly get heavier? Why do the mists start killing people? Why does the whole world start tearing itself apart? Well, because defeating the Dark Lord was actually a trap. Our crew accidentally unleashed something far, far worse. Enter the cosmic scale of Scadrial. This planet was created by two divine powers, basically gods, known as shards, preservation and ruin. They struck an ancient bargain to create life, but preservation eventually broke that deal to protect humanity from being destroyed. What's truly tragic here is that Ruin's original human vessel, a guy named Addy, was actually a kind person once upon a time. But holding the absolute power of entropy for thousands of years ultimately corrupted him, twisting him into a force that desired literally nothing but absolute destruction. To protect the world, Preservation sacrificed his own mind to build a prison for Ruin, and that prison was called the Well of Ascension. This is the massive, jaw-dropping twist of the second book. The Lord Ruler wasn't just a tyrant, he was actually holding back the true apocalypse. He took the power of the well every 1,000 years specifically to keep Ruin trapped. So when Vin found the well, she thought she was doing the right noble thing by giving up the power to heal the world. But instead, she just unlocked the door and set a literal god of destruction free.
So how did a trapped god manage to trick everyone? Well, Ruin pulled off history's greatest manipulation. You see, Ruin has this terrifying ability to subtly alter any text that isn't written in metal. Over centuries, he slowly twisted the ancient Terrace prophecies to make Vin believe she was the prophesied savior who had to release the power at the well. He proved you couldn't even trust written history. Meanwhile, those terrifying night mists everyone was so afraid of, that was actually the leftover, mindless body of Preservation desperately trying to awaken new Allomancers to help fight Ruin. Which brings us to Section 5, the true hero of ages, the grand finale in Book 3, where the central mystery of the true hero is finally paid off, tying together loose threads from literally the first page. I want you to really look closely at Sazed's incredible journey here. Sazed starts out as this humble Terrace scholar, and then goes through a devastating crisis of faith after losing the woman he loves. But remember, Sazed is a Feruchemist. Think back to his copper mines, that metal jewelry where he stored the exact, granular details of hundreds of dead religions. Because they were stored in metal, Ruin couldn't alter them. Eventually, Sazed realizes that the true, unaltered prophecies didn't point to Vin, and they didn't point to Elend. They pointed directly to him. His hoarded knowledge is exactly what the world needed to be saved. But getting to that point requires some truly heartbreaking sacrifices. In a breathtaking final battle, Vin, who has temporarily taken up the divine power of Preservation, clashes directly with Ruin. Ultimately, she and Elend both sacrifice their lives in a brutal, mutual destruction just to permanently kill Ruin's vessel. This is tragic for sure, but it's totally necessary because it leaves both of these immense divine powers floating free, completely without a host. And this is where Sazed steps up. Fulfilling the true prophecy, he takes up both the powers of Preservation and Ruin simultaneously, and he merges them into a brand new, hybridized shard known as Harmony. And then, utilizing all those incredibly detailed maps, star charts, and religious texts he had carefully stored away in his copper mines, Sazed is able to perfectly restore the planet's orbit. He brings back lost species, and he turns a desolate, ash wasteland back into a vibrant, living world.
Sazed's actions don't just wrap up the conflict of this era, they completely pave the way for the future of the entire Cosmere universe. The world heals and society rapidly progresses. 300 years later, Scadrial has evolved into this technologically advanced, steampunk-inspired setting, with guns, electricity, and trains. This becomes the setting for the Wax and Wane series, Era 2, where we see characters known as Twinborns mixing and matching Allomancy and Feruchemy in entirely new ways. But, in Sanderson's universe, peace is rarely permanent. Enter the looming threat of discord. This is the terrifying theoretical state where the forces of preservation and ruin within Sazed actually stop cooperating as harmony and instead start waging an internal war within his single mind. A creeping shadow is already starting to form behind Sazed, hinting that maintaining this kind of perfect cosmic equilibrium might just be impossible forever.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. We saw what happened to Alakai, right? The absolute power of ruin corrupted a genuinely kind man into a monster of destruction. If the power of a shard inevitably overwrites the personality of its host, what does that mean for Sazed? Is this perfect harmony eventually destined to collapse into discord and become the Cosmere's greatest threat? It is a chilling question about the corrupting nature of absolute power, and honestly, it's exactly why the Mistborn universe is a story you can never truly put down. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.